Hey, this is Jordan Halls, former Indiana Hoosier. Keep up with Indiana sports on Indiana Sports Beat.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios on this Thursday. Joined now by our good friend Dustin Schutte from Saturday Tradition. Dustin, how are you, sir?
Hey, it's been a hell of a few days, hasn't it? How are you guys?
Man, it's been crazy, and it's still crazy. Just got done talking with our friend Kevin Brockway. The Big Ten football fall sports cancellation. Man, it's not going away, and I understand that people are upset. I'm upset, but we're starting to wonder if this was a knee-jerk reaction by Commissioner Kevin Warren, and we're really starting to see with the Nebraska. They're obviously not happy. Ohio State not happy, although they seem to be towing the line right now. But, it seemed like they almost pulled the plug a little too soon on this, Dustin.
Yeah, I mean, when you release a schedule last Wednesday and then you pull the plug on the season, 6 days later, you're going to get some frustration. You're going to get some blowback. I think that a lot of head coaches, players, and athletic directors thought we were going to do everything we possibly could to try to play a college football season, and that includes other fall sports as well. And so the question is, what changed all of a sudden? You had a player movement where they were urging, on social media, the number one trend on Twitter was we want to play. And so you thought that maybe that would have some pull. You had coaches coming out and supporting. You had a lot of Big Ten parents associations coming out and supporting the move to play. So I think the frustration comes in when you have athletic directors, coaches, and players who are a little bit closer to this situation than college presidents and even the Big Ten commissioner, just nixing the whole thing when you had extra bye weeks. You had 3 weeks at the end of the season in case you needed to push the start of the season back to September 26th. It just feels like in this situation, the Big Ten threw up the white flag without even giving it a second effort. So, and I think, again, the most frustrating part of this whole thing is the fact that you have college presidents who are hiding underneath their desks, won't reveal their votes, and you've just made a life-changing or career-changing decision for a lot of these players, and you're not willing to stand behind your vote. And I think that's where a lot of frustration comes in right now.
Yeah, and I know that there's serious issues, and you have to take it all serious. But the thing that I think seems to be pushing this is the myocarditis issue or the heart issue. The Feeney freshman at IU is dealing with that. But that is something that's obviously very serious. But it was there before, and I don't know if it was just a new study they looked at. I don't know what it was, but something changed that. But you've got these other conferences that are going forward, and high schools that are going forward right now. So it makes no sense when only thing that is changing is you're just not playing the game. That doesn't make a lot of sense to many people, including me.
Yeah, and you're still allowed to practice 20 hours per week, and I know that there's going to be limitations on that. This isn't a full padded practice. This is going to be basically walkthrough and training and running through your schemes and your formations and things like that. And then you have the interesting part about this whole thing is 13 of the 14 Big Ten universities, as far as I still know, are welcoming students back on campus sometime in the next few weeks. So what's the difference there? When you're going to have lots of students congregating in classrooms, I know that they have different COVID-19 policies in place, but man, if you're having thousands of students back, that seems way more dangerous, than having a room full of, I don't know what the number is, 100, 115 or so college football players who have been quarantined, who have been in a bubble, more or less, who are taking the proper safety precautions. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You've got to have some consistency here. And, show us the reasons. Again, the fact of the matter is you took this vote and you're not willing to give those reasons. Commissioner Kevin Warren's interview on Big Ten Network was horrendous. He gave zero answers. He dodged everything that was thrown at him. If you're going to make this decision, I'm fine if you make that decision, but have some reasons, have some data, and back it up. I think that's, again, where the frustration comes in is it doesn't seem like there was any information given. These players just had the rug pulled out from underneath of them, and you're not willing to back up and say why you're making this move other than, medical data. Well, show us that data. Give these players a reason, and I think there would be a lot more, still the same disappointment, but a little bit more understanding if you're willing to share your findings with not only the players and coaches, but then the rest of the fans around the Big Ten who were looking for something, for some sort of optimism throughout this whole thing.
Yeah, and we've seen how much these coaches, whether it's Ryan Day or Scott Frost in Nebraska, who they are really fired up. But Jeff Brom just came out with a proposed spring schedule. And I've heard Urban Meyer say that spring football is no chance of happening. We were with Tom Allen on a Zoom call, and he was asked about it, and you could tell he had his reservations about spring football. But I bet you right now, as opposed to no football, they would find a way to make it happen. And Jeff Brom came out with a schedule that is a muted schedule. I can't remember. I think it was a 7-game schedule maybe. But then it also goes into next season, starting a little later in October, with also a schedule similar to this year's. Probably something that's doable, but the talk about not being able to play twice within a calendar year is the big deal. And this separates that as much as it can possibly do, but it's just one of the proposals that I think will come out. But you can see that these coaches are doing whatever they can to try to get this done.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of money, there are a lot of jobs, there are a lot of potential careers at stake here. So I haven't been a big proponent of playing in the spring for the same reasons that, ESPN's Reese Davis and Urban Meyer talked about, and that's just player safety, playing that many games in that period of time. Now, Jeff Brom does offer a nice plan there, and it's a good starting point, right? And even if that's not a perfect plan, at least he came up with something, which is something the Big Ten had 5 months to do and did nothing. So at least he's come up with something to work with, and I think that you can develop a plan here. My biggest question about Brom's plan right now, and again, he did this in 2 or 3 days, he has basically said we'll play a 10-game schedule in the fall, and you're essentially eliminating non-conference games. Well, you have already had a group of 5 opponents who have canceled their fall seasons and their football seasons. So what does that contract look like? I mean, they're going to want that money, and I don't know if the Big Ten, some of these programs, I know Ohio State and Michigan might be fine, but some of these other programs like Purdue, like Indiana, they may not be able to afford the $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 they owe these schools without playing that game. So that would be my biggest reservation in terms of the scheduling and the financial situation. You can't just dismiss those non-conference games because there's going to be some legal ramifications if you do that. I think maybe there is a way to do this with player safety. I don't know that 8 games in a postseason is the right answer. Maybe something like 6 games or 7 games in a Big Ten championship game would work. But I mean, at least he came up with a plan, and I think you'll start to see these Big Ten coaches and athletic directors work with more open lines of communication than we saw all fall, because as you saw, there was really no leadership from the Big Ten, no lines of communication, and so at least we have a starting point for spring, and that's better than what we can say really for the past 3 or 4 months.
Absolutely. Dustin, I know you got to run, and we appreciate you stopping by today as always, and look forward to doing it again next week. Hopefully we'll see how the weather is next week, because I'm sure it'll change tomorrow.
Yeah, it's always changing. Thanks for having me on, Jim and Todd. You guys have a great day.
This is Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary. Indiana Sports Beat is now a part of the Rivals Network. You can go to thehoosier.com to sign up. It's free. Catch the show there each day live or at your convenience. You can also like or follow us on Facebook, follow the show's rebroadcast anywhere you podcast. If we're not on a radio station where you live, we should be. Let your local station know they need to carry Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary, or simply go to thehoosier.com.